Is Tet celebrated in Vietnam the same way today that it was in the past?
Absolutely no. There's been a lot of disparities from when I was growing up until now that it was drastically different.
Tet is coming to an end, but I wanted to interview Trang today about what Tet is. So, first question, Trang, what is Tet?
Tet can mean a lot of different things, but overall, I think it is a sense of togetherness and reunion for family members or relatives or even friends. Um, and it's especially meaningful for people who spend the majority of the time away from their family or their loved ones.
When is Tet celebrated?
It is celebrated probably around the last week of the lunar old year and the first week of the lunar new year. If you look at the regular calendar that you use, it falls between late January of the new year to early February.
Where is Tet celebrated?
Tet is a derivative of the Lunar New Year celebrated in many different countries across Asia. And of course, in Vietnam, it takes the form of Tet and it is celebrated throughout the country.
What do people do on Tet holiday? By the way, I apologize if I'm probably not pronouncing Tut the right way. I'm just going to say Tet. It's just a little bit easier when I'm speaking English. So what do people do on Tet holiday?
So people do a lot of homekeeping the week before the New Year's Eve. Yeah, they get their house ready and prepared for the new year to come because they believe that they have to celebrate or welcome in a new year with a clean house and positive mindset so that the rest of the year will go in that positive direction. So a lot of housekeeping and the same mentality goes for clothing. People also shop for home, I would say, goods or new clothing so that they can be their most presentable self and their most beautiful self when the new year comes.
I noticed that you are wearing some special clothing. You just mentioned that. What are you wearing, and do people wear this on Tet?
I am wearing a somewhat modernized version, traditional Vietnamese dress called áo dài. It is actually a set of clothing and not just a piece. It is paired with a pair of long pants. And people wear this on special occasions, but for Tet, they usually go for more festive áo dài outfits. For example, I'm wearing a red áo dài, whereas, for example, on other occasions, they might go for other colors, other styles.
Is an áo dài something that only women wear, or do men wear it as well?
Actually, men and women both wear áo dài. There is a traditional áo dài outfit for men as well. But of course, each stage in history, there is a slightly different style or version of áo dài that was worn during that era or that stage in time.
How would you characterize the áo dài in today's day and age versus maybe like a more traditional áo dài?
Well, there can be adaptations from the Chinese traditional outfit. For example, you see this slight tilted or to the side button line on this áo dài. It is, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, an adaptation of the Chinese, I forgot what you call it, this Chinese dress for women. Also, this style of the collar is also slightly different, but I would say that it is very diverse and it is very creative, the ao dai that you wear today compared to in the past. But it's hard to characterize it as a singular dress or a singular outfit because it's so diverse.
It's really beautiful. I like your ao dai a lot, and I like the
Thank
sleeveless style of it. Sometimes I see sleeves on an ao dai, but I like yours. It seems kind of like a younger, more hip version of an ao dai.
Exactly, yeah. So I did intentionally pick an ao dai, a sleeveless one, because like you said, I look like more youthful, I guess.
Yeah.
And also, I would say the material, the fabric material, plays a role in, curating your look towards a certain, impression or a certain style. So you can have silk or flower silk. This is more like dyed cloth. I actually spent a lot of time. I spent like 2 weeks, close to 2 weeks, picking out an ao dai for myself and also for my mom because there were so many different options on the market nowadays because as I said, the ao dai today is so diverse and is so modernized.
Are there special colors you wear on Tet? Are there colors you're not supposed to wear?
Of course, that's a good question. Yeah. So there are colors that people use throughout their house, throughout the celebration during Tet, and not only with their clothes. So people will try to go for vibrant and bold colors like red, like I'm wearing, or yellow, which is also a symbol of prosperity and wealth. Pink is also a good color, but mostly the traditional, I would say traditional color associated with Tet would be red, yellow, and people would generally avoid wearing dull or muted tones or decorating their houses with such tones like black, white, or gray because it makes the atmosphere a little bit dull and not very festive.
Where do people usually go on Tet holiday? I live in Saigon. We both live in Saigon. I notice there's usually a very large exodus of people from the city during Tet holiday. So where are they going?
Right. So again, the entire celebration is about togetherness and a sense of reunion. So people tend to, especially those who live far away from their hometown and their family, they tend to go back to their hometown. They tend to go back to where their families are so that they can be together with their family during the holiday.
And that's where you are now, right? You're back in your hometown.
So you would say that it is kind of a stimulus for the economy because you have more people traveling all over the country.
Are there any special decorations that people put up for Tet?
So people tend to keep house more tidy, more clean. And one of the more popular decorations that people get for Tet is kind of like what I would call the Tet version of the Christmas tree. So here in the South, people usually get an apricot blossom tree, or they get chrysanthemum. But then you would need like a big apricot blossom tree, or at least like a branch. It doesn't come in tree, but it comes in a branch of cherry blossom tree. And then they either put that in their house or they hang the branch up high and they put these little trinkets or decorations onto those branches. They usually come in the shape of like gold or like fruits to represent like fruitfulness, or also it can be in the shape of calligraphy, vertical calligraphy papers, and they will have like tiny little writings of wishings on those calligraphy papers. And they hang those up on the tree, or they hang big calligraphy papers onto the wall in their house. Yeah, they're usually in the color of gold and red.
In America, like a Christmas tree would be about, I think nowadays, about $100 or something like that. Do you know, like, approximately how much these apricot trees are, or the decorations that you would use for Tet? Is there any sort of relationship between like the amount of money you spend on your decorations, or how fancy your decorations are that represent something about how your year's gonna go, or maybe something like that?
Well, of course, it's more, it's more about the thought or
Sure.
put into it. But people would definitely pride themselves upon having like a bigger apricot tree, or like a very blossoming cherry blossom branch with a lot of flowers on it. So there is effort that goes into picking the tree or picking the branch, and also the more money you spend on the tree, the bigger it will be. I would say a tree about this big or this big would be,
so it's about, if you
millions.
can't tell, it's about a little over a meter.
Would be about a few millions, or probably around $100 or more.
Okay.
And you go from there. People also have this service called like cherry apricot blossom tending service, where you buy a tree but you don't really keep it at your house because it only blossoms during Tet. So you kind of give it away to a farm. They will take care of it throughout the year, kind of like you buy a deposit or a spot at that farm.
Sure.
And then when Tet comes, they bring the tree to you, and so you can display it in your house. And when Tet is over, they take the tree back to the farm.
It's interesting. I think I saw something like that the other day when I was filming, because I was walking down the street and I saw a truck. This was like after Tet, because right now it's a few days after Tet. I saw a truck carrying an apricot tree in the back of the bed. So I figure it was bringing it back from somebody's house, because it's not delivering to somebody's house at that point.
Right.
That must have been an example of that.
Yeah. So and it's just it's a big tree. It's hard to take care of it because you have to kind of time how the flowers will bloom, and there's effort that goes into that as well. So might as well just pay for someone to do it and take care of it for you. As I said, there's chrysanthemum. People also, one of the more also very important aspect of Tet is ancestral or ancestor veneration, where people prepare a lot of offerings, and they decorate the altar, their ancestors' altar, and they put up offerings during Tet, like grander or more extravagant offerings than they would usually during the year, so that their ancestor, the thought process is that their ancestor can also participate or take part in the holiday together with the rest of the family. So those who passed away could also be a part of the celebration.
Oh, that's very cool. I like that. Do people eat any special types of food during Tet?
Yeah, a lot of different types of food. So you would have what you call the heavier, like the more fulfilling types of food that you eat for a meal, and also you have snacks. So the reason behind this is because markets or grocery stores are closed during the Tet holiday. So people have nowhere to go to get food for example, my mom goes to the grocery store to get goods every 2-3 days, but that would be impossible because they would be closed for close to a week during Tet. No one actually goes out to get food, and no one actually sells food, so people have to stock up. People stock up sticky rice cakes in the shapes of a rectangle or a cylinder shape. One represents the sky and the other represents the earth. So that's like a harmonious relationship between the sky and the earth. Hence, the pair of a rectangular cake and a cylinder cake. People also stock up a lot of pickles, like pickled garlic, pickled shallot roots more. Pickled
bamboo,
pickled bamboo, and that's about it for what you eat during the day. And you also have people coming over visiting your house during Tet, because it's all about visiting people, giving people lucky envelopes and stuff. So you have to have something to treat people to when they visit your house. So you have snacks like beef jerky and dried seeds where they can kind of munch on while they're having a chat with you.
This is my 3rd year spending Tet with you and your family, and my favorite thing that your mom makes every year at least once is thịt kho chung. But I don't know if that's a Tet thing or not. She makes it all year.
I did forget about that. It is also a Tet thing. So a few more dishes, traditional dishes that people would make for Tet would be thịt kho chung, or braised pork with eggs, or people can make măng gà kho măng, which is braised chicken with bamboo. The whole idea is to make a big pot of something that you can reheat over a couple of days, and you can kind of eat like slowly, so eat it off slowly.
Gotcha.
So that you don't have to cook a lot, and you can kind of come back home after a day of hangout to a pot ready for you to eat. And also,
and you don't have to go to the store to get new stuff because you've already got something prepared.
Right. And also, if someone visits your house and they are hungry, you can just have some food readily available for them. You don't have to really go and cook a full meal for them again. You
mentioned that people give red envelopes at Tet. So what are those, and do people exchange gifts at Tet like they do on Christmas?
So the gift exchanging process usually takes place before Tet, where people would kind of do some logistic work, some prep work. So they run around. My parents would have someone visit the house, give them usually beer or wine or alcohol. Not really red envelopes, because you save that for during Tet. And then during Tet, people also visit each other's house again, and then that's when they lisi or give red envelopes to little kids, or the general consensus would be to someone who is not financially independent yet, but also from a parent or an older person to a younger person, to like my parents to me, or like from you to me. But then it can be a gesture of appreciation and love. So you can just lisi anyone that you want to. For example, you can lisi your grandparents to wish them good health and longevity. But yeah, usually it's you give red envelopes to older people to wish them good health, longevity, or you give the red envelopes to little kids to wish them health, they grow faster, they eat more, they become fatter, even though you get shamed for being fat.
That is funny. That is ironic. I remember one time that your grandmother, she gave a lisi to, I think, your little cousin, and she told him to make sure he eats a lot.
Yeah.
But you're right. There is also fat shaming, so there's a little bit of irony
mixed
there.
signal. I'm like, am I supposed to eat, or am I not supposed to
eat a lot unless you're fat, and then don't eat a lot, but still eat a lot because it's healthy. Yeah, so the lisi, I like that. I usually give lisis to, you know, you and the rest of your family when I come.
Very nice of you.
Oh, I you know, your family are always so gracious and welcoming to me that it's, you know,
Thank you.
It's absolutely my pleasure. Next question, are there any superstitions regarding Tet, like specific do's and don'ts?
Yeah. One that I kind of touched upon already is related to colors. There are certain colors you should wear, and there are certain dull, sad, or funeral colors that you should not wear. So you go to a funeral, you usually wear black and white. So best to avoid wearing black and white during Tet, because it's associated with bad luck. That's one superstition. There is also a superstition of who the first person who is the first person to step in your house on the first day of the new year. So you're a horse, right? Your Chinese zodiac is a horse. My Chinese zodiac is a dragon. So based on a lot of calculations and superstition, you can work out what the best Chinese zodiac would be, that can come to your house on the first day of Tet to make sure that the rest of the year will fare well.
Do you know which animal that is this year? So this is the year of the snake. Do you know what's the preferred animal to come in the house?
It depends on the family members.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think I was the first person to come in the house on the new year.
Yeah, but
I'm a horse. I galloped in here.
But it is one of the lesser known, or I would say less practiced superstition in as of today. I don't know if it's more common for other families or for specific regions in Vietnam, but it's not really a thing anymore in my house. But definitely a superstition that we still have would be to keep it happy and, you know, jolly, keep the atmosphere in the house happy and jolly, so that the rest of the year will go that way. So you try to avoid fighting, or you try to avoid you know, having arguments on the Lunar New Year. So because it's more of like, oh yeah, and there's also another one that's tied to that, that is the very first things that you do on New Year would be what you would do the rest of the year. So I took a shower, put on makeup, put on new clothing before New Year's Eve, so that when you know, it is New Year's Eve, I make sure that my year will be presentable and hygienic, I guess. That is also why I gave all the cats and the dogs a shower before New Year, so that they will be clean all year round.
Oh.
Ma actually ran away, and I was not able to give her a shower before New Year's Eve, so she's gonna be dirty all year.
Yeah, she's doomed for the whole year. Do people celebrate Tet with just their own family, or do they also celebrate with visitors? I think you kind of touched on that. People do visit before and bring some things, but do they actually come like on Tet, the day of Tet, or the days of Tet?
Yeah, they definitely do. You don't see a lot of visitors anymore to my house because we kind of hide. My parents hide I assume they're kind of tired of years of welcoming people over and serving them food and, you know, cleaning up after them after they leave.
Sure, that makes sense.
So, you know, we keep it simple the past like 5 years or so. But I remember when I was way until when I was in high school and during my years in secondary school too, we would make it kind of big where we would have flocks of people coming over.
Flocks, huh?
Yeah, flocks. That's why you have
herds of people.
That's why you have the dinner table. It used to be an extra table. We used to have 2 extra tables that we would set up in the yard or whatever, in the front yard, because people would come over and you would not have enough seats for them. So you have to set it up. And as you can see, it would be pretty tiring because people used to drink a lot more on Tet holidays before there were regulations about drinking and driving, or before that was more strictly, you know, enforced.
That's actually very interesting. So do you think there's less alcohol consumption nowadays during Tet?
My mom told me so. I don't know if that's the case or no, but apparently people celebrate it more simply than they did in the past. Whereas they would throw parties, they would have drinking parties and stuff.
Drinking problems.
Parties. But now it's kind of curbed because you can't drink and drive. So it encourages people to get a Grab, get a taxi.
But is it easy to get a Grab or an Uber type thing during Tet?
At least it is easy enough in the city. It's not so easy here. Grab is still a pretty new thing here, so ride-hailing apps are still a pretty new thing here. The only thing that has been here for years is taxis. They get a lot of business during Tet, so it's still not as easy to get a taxi during the holiday. So yeah, I think it does prevent people a little bit from drinking, or at least if they feel like I'm not gonna be able to get a ride, I'll just drive and not drink.
What's your favorite part about Tet?
I like people coming together and celebrating the New Year together. So, you know, whether it's seeing my old friends who I haven't seen for a while, or, you know, my family sitting down and having a meal together, that's what I like about the holiday. You know, it's just a sense of doing something together. I also like to visit other people's house during Tet, like visiting my grandma's, visiting my aunts and uncles. And I kind of like it too if I run into someone at their house, because I'm like, the more the merrier. Is
there anything you don't like about Tet? Anything overwhelming or burdensome?
Definitely the cleaning up and the cooking, and the pressure that you have to get your house in order, or get everything, get your room, get your house, get your life in order. It's a little bit burdensome, but I think it's a good reminder. It's a good source of motivation, and it kind of resets your life.
This year and last year, I've seen articles in the press that talk about things like how younger people or the younger generation view Tet as a sort of burden, as opposed to like a fun celebratory time. You mentioned the idea of getting your life together. Do you think that there's like added pressure on younger people to display a sort of order in their life, or a sort of representation of success or well-doing? Do you think there's pressure on people for that, or do you think it's more like it doesn't matter how you're doing, we love you anyways, or are people afraid of the judgment? What's the dynamic there?
Well, it's a fine line. There's both. Um, as for me, it's more of like we don't really care. We we value that you're here. We value your presence, and we don't really put a lot of weight on how much you're giving us for Lisi this year, or how much you're contributing to the household. But I also heard that every year, apparently, some people avoid coming back to their hometown because they feel like they have not made a life for themselves and they're too ashamed to come back. Apparently, there's a little bit of that everywhere too. And I have seen the Lunar New Year in China, and I've seen some parallels where maybe it's not your direct nuclear family that judges you, but it's more like when you visit your relatives, or when your relatives visit you, they tend to have a lot of intrusive questions.
Sure.
How much are you making a month? How much are you making a year? What's your current job title? What's your plan for the future? Are you getting a master's?
Yeah.
How much are you giving your parents for TED this year?
For the Lisi money?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Wow. So I guess in some cases it's just very like pure and loving, but in other cases it's almost like tainted by materialism.
Yeah, there can definitely be a sense of intrusion into someone else's life because you have not seen them for a while and you are very curious. I mean, curiosity is not really a bad thing, but it could be bad if people want to pry on you.
I know you're pretty young, so just answer this one to the best of your ability. Is Tet celebrated in Vietnam the same way today that it was in the past? Is it changing in any way?
Absolutely no. There's been a lot of disparities and there's a lot of differences. I mean, I can already tell from my own experience, from when I was growing up until now, that it was drastically different. It used to be more elaborate, and it used to be a heavier burden on getting it right for the new year, at least from what I can pick up. Whereas now it's more like relaxed, laid back, and it's chill, casual. Yeah.
Binyan, right?
Yeah.
Why do you think it's becoming more casual, and why do you think it was more serious before?
Well, because you have, the younger generations growing up and becoming the main familial unit, replacing the old family unit that was their parents in the past, who could be, more traditional and could be a lot more, I guess.
Do you think maybe like exposure to different cultures around the world within like the younger generation is maybe
Diminish the value?
Yeah, diminishing. Yeah, exactly. Or diminishing like how much they revere Tet, or how much they want to, like you said, get it right.
I personally, I don't think so. I think it's the opposite way around, because it's such a traditional celebration. It gives you a sense of, okay, this is a celebration that belongs to me and my culture and my tradition, as opposed to other, you would say, imported celebrations from Western culture or from other cultures. So there's a sense of uniqueness where you have the celebration that you can be proud about.
So exposure to other cultures actually strengthening the celebration of Tet amongst the Vietnamese community.
Maybe there are other opinions that
That's your opinion.
That's mine.
Yeah, that's fair. Do you have any standout memories, either good or bad, from Tet throughout your life?
Oh yeah. I remember getting a lot of leases. Every year I would kind of, as a kid, I would kind of gather. I would not check the envelopes. I would save them, and then at the end of the day, or after a few days, I finally just open all of them and just count how much money I've gathered.
That's cool.
Businesswoman. That's a fun memory. I also remember because my dad used to work in a much larger community, I would say, or maybe he just had more energy back then, but we would go from house to house to visit his colleagues, and it would be like 10 houses in a row or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, and everyone just would kind of just storm or like flood in one of the houses, stay there for like 30 minutes, storm out and move on to the next, leaving behind like dirty dishes, cans on the floor, seats on the floor that need sweeping. And
would you get a lot of leases from your dad's friends and stuff?
Yeah.
Or is it mostly from family?
Well, from their
from your own family, I mean.
No, yeah, from my dad's friends a lot. They would be kind of like, that's your daughter, and everyone would kind of be like, Win, hey, how are you? And be like, who are you? How are you? Where's my Lacey? I remember you. In fact, I don't.
Yeah.
Hey, uncle, I remember you. Hey, auntie, I remember you. So give me some Lacey.
What's been your favorite part of this year's Tet holiday?
That I have been spending a lot of time here in Phan Rang, and I don't really have a deadline for leaving, so it's kind of like a never-ending celebration for me. And I'm not under any time constraint, so I can really take my time and finish or do everything that I want to get done for the new year. Visiting families, visiting relatives, hang out with friends.
Awesome. All right, well, thank you so much for taking the time to explain what Tet holiday is and your unique experience regarding Tet.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I hope you guys liked that video. Hope you guys liked the interview. If you did like it, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, support the growth, and leave any comments. Yeah, I'm really happy to hear from you all. And I'll see you in the next vlog. Peace.